I love the little robot voice. All right. Episode 001. We're gonna have to do it differently this time around.
Mm,
Um,
lockdown life.
Lockdown special edition.
Mm,
Yeah, far out. First world problem? I don't know. This is a whole world problem.
yeah, this is everyone's problem.
Everyone's problem.
Mm.
What do we do? What do we do other than eat kimchi and drink wine?
Discuss first world problems.
There's an idea. There's an idea. All
Yeah.
right.
Do we start off by talking about the wine that we're drinking?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay. I will go first.
Please
I
do.
am drinking a GSM,
What is that?
which is a Grenache Shiraz Mataro blend
Mm,
from. I think it's a blend. I guess that's why it's got three types of grape in it.
hmm
It's from a small family winery in the Barossa Valley. Hayes Family Wines. Hang on, I'm just.
Yeah, there you go. Supporting the local, well, almost
That's
local.
it. That's
Thanks for
it. They're
closing.
not
Yeah.
sold in Liquorland or Dan Murphy's or anything. You got to order them online.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We've
Where'd you find that?
well, we went to their winery when we were in Barossa Valley over
Oh,
Easter
yeah.
on
Okay.
a little getaway.
It's back when you were allowed to go to South Australia.
When we're allowed to leave the building. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but it's very good.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
the first time I've heard of it being referred to as GSM. So I thought you were talking
Mm.
about the weight of paper, the thickness
What
of
is
the weight of,
GSM?
yeah, it's the GSM is the, uh,
What does that stand for in the context of the paper world, Raf?
I wish I knew. GSM. Let's ask the all-knowing Oracle.
Bring it up, Raf.
GSM paper. What does it mean? It means grams per square meter.
Ah,
I didn't know that, but like there you go. I knew GSM was about
grams per
paper.
square meter.
Yeah,
Why not like grams per square millimeter? I don't know. Feels like there's a lot of grams in a meter.
in a square meter of
Anyway,
paper. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know.
I remember it's supposed to, yeah.
Most papers around like 70 or 80, right? Something like that. And then like you get
Mm,
like a super thick sort of
maybe you're
250.
right. Now I think about it, square meter paper doesn't weigh that much, does it?
No, no, it's
I
not
know what
like
I'm talking about.
it's not very. Yeah, it's just
Anyway,
meter by
we've
meter.
di- we've digressed.
Oh, that's my
So
other
yes, I'm drinking this
talent.
Grenache Shiraz Mataro.
Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, okay. I'm drinking makgeolli. It looks like
mm,
milk, but it's almost like a mead.
mm,
It's made of rice. And it's fermented. There's like little bubbles at the bottom. It's a little bit fizzy,
mm,
but
mm-hmm.
it tastes like I don't know. It tastes like makgeolli. I don't know what else tastes like this. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
It's an odd one, but it's nice.
it is nice, and it's Korean.
It's Korean. It's a very
Goes well
Korean
with
thing.
the kimchi.
It goes well
So
with the kimchi.
yeah, I got
The
some homemade kimchi. This
It's
is a
really good.
fresh batch. Just
Oh,
it's been fermenting for about a week.
yep. Be
Um,
nice and crispy. This is
yeah,
homemade too. This is homemade as well, just not in my home. It's a radish kimchi with spring onion kimchi on the side. I
yum.
think we got it from the local Korean shop. We did some takeaway the other night, and it was actually quite nice. And you could tell it was homemade because of its
Beautiful.
rustic nature.
So good. I
Yeah,
changed my recipe for kimchi this time, and the
yeah.
weirdest thing happened. I honestly can't explain it, but I put less garlic in than what I normally would,
Yeah.
and I put more, um, the Korean red chili
Oh yeah.
pepper.
Mhm.
I put more of that, 50% more, in fact.
Wow.
Pretty substantial. Like I'm gonna make a bit of a fiery one.
Yeah.
It came out less harsh and more garlicky. I can't explain it. Tally tried it. She's like, "Oh, it's a lot of garlic in there." And I'm like, "There isn't. There's less garlic."
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, and it's not very harsh." I'm like, "I don't know. It's weird."
The
Um,
powder you're using is just only red chili powder.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all. Oh,
It's that real intense stuff. Normally
mm,
blows your head off. But I don't know. It's weird.
that is weird. That is weird. Um, I'm able to be a lot more productive uh, in the last couple of weekends, and I'll tell you why. We bought a robot vacuum cleaner. We've been
Yes.
tossing, yeah. So, topic du jour: robot vacuum cleaners, and we've been tossing up whether or not to make one of these purchases because they're not cheap.
Mm, mm,
So we went out and pulled the trigger because someone that we knew, someone that we mutually know, um, had bought one and was raving about it. And so I thought, okay, well, I don't want to be, working many long hours during the week. And usually in the weekends is where we do the big clean.
mhm,
During the week, it's just
mhm,
a light touch here and there.
mhm,
Um, and it's either a Saturday where you get up and you just want to sometimes just want to not do anything.
Yeah.
uh, and and then they go, okay, well, we're going to clean on Saturday. Now it's too late. Now we're going to have to do it on Sunday, and there's no way out of it. So, and there goes your weekend. And so, thought, why not try and win the weekend back? Because we found that we weren't spending enough time doing family stuff, and the price you pay for time is in the price of a robot vacuum cleaner. I find that it's a symptom of uh, an ill society. There, I've made my statement.
It's a symptom of an ill society.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to elaborate on that one for me.
Uh, okay. Ill society. How do we put this? Um,
Mm,
without ruffling too many feathers. I want
mm,
to say that perhaps even not so recently, but perhaps even actually quite recently, there
mm,
there was the understanding that the man, the traditional man, as I mean, the masculine
mm,
guy, he would go to work, he would make the money, and the woman would stay at home
mm,
and uh, you know do the housework, manage the house, and that's not. I'm not going to say that is everybody's experience, but more
mm,
often than not, you're talking about 30, 40, even like 30 years ago, you're talking about that was the norm, the
mhm,
majority. Um, and given the choice, because there was one that families would do that because one, there was a wage that allowed one working person to be able to
mm,
support a family of an average of four, let's say,
mhm,
to be able to afford a modest home, cars, more than one. Here, I'm talking about in Australia, and a holiday once a year, on average.
mhm,
I'm talking about statistics, right? So, um, yeah. And fast forward, and asset prices, especially the biggest purchase, the home, of course, is a lot more expensive than it used to be compared to the average wage, and which would require an income to match. And now, if the income doesn't match, which it didn't, because the incomes didn't really rise as fast as the asset classes did, you need the additional income.
mm.
With that comes the I guess the division of work. So yeah, the stuff that used to be done, I don't know,
Got it.
yeah, back when the man was at work during the daytime when the kids were at school maybe, and the woman was cleaning up and keeping the house clean and having the
Now we have
meals prepared.
robots to do that.
Now we have robots to do that.
because we both have to go to work to afford a house.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's the aim of the game, or to afford
Mm,
enough what I call survival credits to be able to make it to the next survival credit distribution day.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. So, in order to stay as a unit, as a family unit. Now, I
yeah.
mean, I'm not even me growing up, I didn't have that experience. Okay, so my mom has always been a working woman
Mm-hmm.
from day dot.
Mm-hmm.
And the family or the house sort of chores have been split up between mom and dad. And there was never
Mm,
it was never one-sided. And in my family, my mom's always earned more than my dad, always,
mm-hmm.
just because of the profession that she was in,
Mm-hmm.
at corporate. So yeah, it was. It's not my experience, but I mean, they made it. I mean, they made it work, and they allowed, like, in comparison, I'm probably a bit lazy, or maybe because like they were talking about the weekend activities, reminding us of our weekend activities that when we were kids, and we had a lot. And I was thinking, how do they keep that house clean and the meals ready and stuff? And
Mm.
yeah, they didn't have internet to keep them busy. They didn't have devices vying for their attention, I guess. So they were allowed to be more productive. But yeah, vacuum cleaners, robot vacuum cleaner. And thanks to that, we were able to go out the last couple of weeks, which we haven't done for a while.
Mm. So I feel the robot vacuum cleaner in itself is a good thing, but it's a symptom of what's the first world problem that asset prices, that housing, real estate prices are so high,
Yeah, asset.
and
Um,
wages haven't risen in conjunction with that.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Mm.
and think of
I suppose,
like
yeah, I suppose. I mean, I guess it is a first world problem because maybe outside in developing nations, you're not really worried about owning a home, are you? You got bigger fish to fry.
such as.
Well, you just living day to day. Your survival credits are measured on a daily basis as opposed to a monthly one.
Or maybe you can afford a home based on even the meager survival credits, because that's just the price of real estate there compared to here.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I wouldn't know. I'm not familiar enough with overseas real estate. I'm familiar enough with the depressing state of Melbourne real estate.
Mm, as
Yeah,
am I. Yeah. I mean,
average.
I've seen
Mm,
the on my Facebook feed, there's like, the ads that come up, obviously, about real estate agents that video their auctions and stuff. And 40, 50-year-old houses selling for $1.6 million up in Box
it's
Hill
crazy.
North. It's Box Hill North.
Mm,
It's not the
mm,
best area. It's not even a
it's
good
not.
area.
No, it's nuts. I know.
1.6
Yeah,
million.
apparently it's even worse in Sydney.
It's always worse in Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't comprehend. Obviously, I don't own a home. I live in a little apartment, as you can,
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
as evidence
Yep.
behind me. But yeah, I can't comprehend the fact that if to buy a home, I'm going to have to get a 1 point something million-dollar mortgage.
It's peanuts
It's
now.
crazy.
Million
My
bucks.
yeah, it's nothing, but it's still going to take me the rest of my life to pay it off.
Oh yeah.
My my parents bought their first house for $26,000.
Oh,
And I always think about it because like that was a lot of money. They bought it in I think the early 80s.
yeah,
It was
okay.
probably a lot of money to them. But even if their salaries were completely different, right? Let's just say I have
Mm,
no idea what my parents were earning, but even if they were only earning $12,000 a year,
hmm.
$1,000 a month, which I think they were earning more than that, that still means that the house was only just over double their salary,
Yeah.
which is incomprehensible today. Like how to own a home is 10 to 12 times or more. Sometimes 1.6 million. You're talking 15 to 20 times your annual salary,
Average.
your
Annual salary.
average.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's nuts.
Yeah. It doesn't. I guess you got to look at the bigger picture because there is no productive industry. Like not no, that's pretty harsh, but there's a decreasing amount of productive industry in Australia, especially here in Victoria, because
Hmm.
it's all gone. I mean, I hate to sound like I'm just spitting out
Well,
talking
there's no
points, but
manufacturing here anymore, right?
well,
There hasn't
yeah,
been manufacturing for at least a decade or more.
yeah, that's right. And so that's mainly because labor costs are too high, and then you can make the same stuff cheaper overseas. It makes sense. If I was a business
I
owner,
just
I'd be
heard
like doing that.
this is just random. I'm going on a tangent, but I
Hmm,
just heard about the concept of dumping the other day. Have
what's
you
that?
heard dumping in the manufacturing within the context of manufacturing?
No.
So apparently, yeah, apparently this is a legit thing that apparently the Chinese government was giving incentives to manufacturers to sell produce for less than it costs to make it in China and flood overseas markets with cheap goods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so like that basically to shut down manufacturing industries overseas.
Yeah. Okay.
They'd incentivize the businesses to take a loss.
Mm,
I
mm.
was like, oh, so yeah, dumping, flooding a market with a product.
That's yeah. That's probably they didn't come up with that. That's probably been around
Oh
for a
yeah,
while.
definitely
Yeah.
not. Definitely not. Yeah, but
That's the
anyway, it's
comparative
interesting.
advantage. That's the arbitrage sort of
Yeah, it's
that
just
we've
like it's
come up with.
in most industries do some kind of loss leading activity, right?
Yeah.
To capture market share.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I felt it firsthand. I used to own a bottle shop, small bottle shop, and I have a wholesale
Dan
supplier.
Murphy shut you down.
Well, um, they became my supplier of certain items because when
Yeah,
they do their specials, they have a loss leader, which means that they're
yeah.
selling it cheaper than what it costs to buy it.
Hmm.
Um, I know they're big enough to um, get a better deal from the actual manufacturer
Hmm.
than what my supplier can. So I wouldn't buy from my supplier. I'd go straight to Dance and just buy it from there
Yeah.
and then jack up the price and sell it in my little shop.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that made sense to me. The only advantage I had over them is because they closed at 9 and I closed at 11. So
Hmm.
I'd make that trade in the extra opening hours.
2 hour window.
2 hour window when everywhere else is
Mm.
closed. Yeah, that was
Mm.
that was good. That was the only good
Yeah.
bit. But yeah, I
I
understand.
remember
I'm
my dad was talking about opening a bottle shop. He
yeah.
thought he would open one in sort of Aldi style fashion
Mm,
where he wouldn't bother with really complex shelving scenarios or anything. He would just stack it up, come and take what you want, and
yeah.
he'd save money on that.
Yeah.
And he reached out to Lion Nathan and Cut United Breweries and
Mm,
to get some pricing, and they
yeah.
basically just gave him a list of Liquorland pricing. Like, here you go. Uh,
Mm.
anyway, we've digressed a little bit again, Raf.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
that's where we're naturally heading towards. But like I was
the
saying,
kimchi and the wine
it,
carrying.
it must be. It must be.
So back on
Yeah,
point. So
back on point.
your robot vacuum is a symptom of an ill society because,
I love it, by the way.
yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah.
It's excellent. I'm fancy one myself, although there's not enough. I just feel like we don't have enough room in this apartment to justify it. Like it's so small,
Hmm.
we just don't need it. But maybe one day. But it makes sense. So it's a symptom of an ill society because you're purchasing it to free up time on the weekend because the weekends are used to clean your house
Hmm.
when normally one member of the family would have been dedicated to doing that during the week. But in a society where wage growth has been pretty stagnant for a long time and inflation and housing prices have gone through the roof, we
Yeah,
now find ourselves with, you need a dual income to sustain a family.
that's right. And we, we
Quite a,
we touched on the fact that there's no manufacturing
mm,
left here.
which
Um,
is why the asset class of housing.
yeah,
There's
that's
so
right.
much money wrapped up in housing.
Correct.
Doesn't
And
produce anything.
it doesn't produce anything. It produces no value. It's
Mm.
just a thing, and it's just
It's
there.
quite absurd when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Don't need to think about it. It's just absurd on face value as well.
Mm.
Yeah. And so that manufacturing has gone overseas because it makes
Mm.
sense to do that. And because of those manufacturing jobs are there, even if the wages are quite low, you're still able
Mm.
to afford a shack. It might not be a palace because Australia, we've got the largest house sizes, in terms of square meterage and stuff in the world.
Mm.
And we're used to this kind of thing. So like the place I'm living in now would be like 560 square meters,
Mm.
a patch of land. And that's considered small
Mm.
on the small side of a block.
Mm. Mm.
It's not one that you could put, knock down to put two townhouses on. So I mean, I grew up on a 700 square meter block. I'm sure you grew up on one bigger than that where you were. So yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah, further out east was bigger. Even my parents at the moment are on a just shy of, I think, I think it's 900 and something
yeah,
square meter block.
yeah,
It's pretty big, but that's like, I mean, we have a lot of space in Australia, though.
yeah.
There's a lot of land there.
Lot of land. Yeah, it's one thing my dad always said. Even like at the start of 2000, when house prices were increasing, we're
Mm.
having like a first sort of mini boom. And he
Mm.
said, I don't understand it because there's not many people here and there's a lot of land. Why are the house
Mm-hmm.
prices going up like this?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't understand it. So I never thought, I thought it didn't compute either. And it
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah. And so the solution, what's the solution to this? Because we've gone to all the way
Mm.
back to there's no manufacturing here because there's no industry. Because there's no industry,
Mm.
that means that asset prices are too high, which means that two people have to work, which means that we have to buy robot vacuum cleaners.
Mm.
Is the solution here to bring back manufacturing?
I think it's a multi-faceted solution. I don't think it's to bring back manufacturing, but certainly to some degree to invest in the future of production, whether it's like
Yeah. I
skills that can produce, the needs of the future, technical skills, tech skills.
yeah.
I don't know.
I
And
think that
but
yeah. Yeah,
sorry,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say,
Yeah.
I've um this isn't a solution, right? Because it's hindsight's 2020. But I find it interesting that you can look at a country like Norway
Yeah.
that had a really big oil reserve, and rather than have it privatized, they publicly owned it. And the government, like, basically, if you're born Norwegian, you're a millionaire.
For real.
Because, yeah, you can look it up. And I'm sure it's a case of the grass isn't all that greener, but I was reading about it. If you're Norwegian, you're essentially a millionaire because the government owns all their oil reserves
Mm.
and has sold most of that oil and invested it into a fund, basically like a super fund that looks after everyone in Norway when they retire. You don't have to worry about superannuation or a pension. It's taken care of
Interesting.
because they distributed, they publicly owned that wealth, I suppose, and distribute it fairly amongst people. And in Australia, we probably had a really big opportunity to do that. Like we're the largest producer of iron ore in the
Mm-hmm.
world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we privatized that industry. So rather than every Australian getting a piece of that wealth in the ground, I don't know, you got what, 4 people own most of it?
Mm-hmm. They're very well off.
They're pretty.
They probably don't need robot vacuum cleaners. They have like real vacuum cleaners with real people.
Mm. See, this is not a solution. I just feel like it's a missed opportunity, right?
Well, yeah.
And maybe you might be thinking I'm some kind of crazy socialist, but I think
You are
that's
wearing
that.
red,
There you go.
showing your true colors.
That's there's the proof.
Yeah.
But I think that how good would that been though that every person in Australia didn't have to worry about their superannuation because
That'd be
our
great.
country is wealthy in resources,
Yeah.
in demand resources that we've been able to dig up. And so I think we're also the biggest producer of uranium.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
iron ore,
yeah,
uranium. I'm sure there's some other stuff there, right? We're
yeah.
massive mining industry,
That's right. It's a
but
lot of places where
most of
people don't
those
live, and so you can dig that
most of those
land up.
profits go to a very small number of people.
Yeah. Hmm. That's right. And you're not allowed to go digging around either.
Nah.
So yeah, I think if you
Yeah.
find if you find something, it belongs to the
Yeah.
crown. It doesn't belong to you.
No. So very
No.
missed opportunity.
Okay. All
Missed
right.
opportunity.
I was thinking
Anyway.
I was thinking along the lines of what they've got in Japan and Germany. All right.
Mhm.
They've got a really strong SME industry. It was just, but I mean, small to medium enterprise
Mm.
industry, and it's manufacturing industry, as a matter of fact, that they do. The
Mm.
labor, I mean, the wages uh, in Germany, they're relatively comparable to Australia,
Mm.
because of the living expenses. It'd have to be, and same thing in Japan for these industries. They have a really strong sector, like that middle belt. I think in German they got a word for it, Mittelstadt or Mittelgung or something like that. Um, and they specialize in high skill um, jobs
Mm.
that you can't do by machine. It requires craftsmanship. It requires years of experience and knowledge. And they are in demand because they target these niche industries. Um, so a machine can't take them over. Cheap labor can't take them over, because it requires because there's such a large um, barrier of entry because of the
Mm.
experience that you need. The tooling that you need to set up is expensive, and it's bespoke sort of products that are being created. Um, Case in point, one example was the nose cone of the space shuttle. It's made by hand by a guy
Oh
in
wow.
Japan.
Like a particular space shuttle, or
Well, the
like just
the actual ship that they attach the booster rockets and stuff to, that goes up and then lands back down. That thing,
mm.
the nose cone of that, and that needs and I've seen it, and there's like a guy, he's there with his little chisel and the things on a lathe, and he's just like
Mm.
grinding it down and shaping it, making sure that apparently a machine can't do that, and it's done by hand. And so are
Wow.
all of these little specialist parts and things like that need to be manufactured, which require a high degree of skill, lots of practice, lots of years of practice, and they specialize in this, and therefore they've got a strong demand for their services,
Yeah.
and so they've got probably better in terms of, I don't know, housing prices. Maybe they don't need robot vacuum cleaners, even
Maybe.
though they're the land of robots. But you know, I mean, and I have been keeping my eye on sort of the real estate market in Tokyo for a number
Mhm.
of years, and it was largely similar to Australia. Like you'd be like 30 minutes out from the city, and you'd be able to find yourself a house for a similar price.
Mm.
And the last time it was comparable would have been around 2016. And then from that point onwards, Australia's just gone like this. Yeah, just
Take
taken
off.
off. Yeah, like they've
Mm.
taken off too, but not in the same degree as we have.
Okay.
There, because mainly nobody lives in their country towns. Everyone's just trying to move into the city. Like in
Mm.
their country towns, they're actually giving away places. If you move to one of their country towns and live there for like 10, 15 years, they give you the
Mhm.
whole thing. You can live there
Mm.
for free. You can have it.
Mm.
They're just trying to entice people back away from the
Wow.
city. Yeah, so much. Yeah.
Maybe that's the solution to our problem. We got to go live in rural Japan.
Mm. Or rural Australia.
Well, actually, I was going to make that point, right? Like, is the other part of this problem infrastructure?
Oh yeah, could be.
We have a lot of land in Australia that's basically unusable, right?
Unusable because there's no infrastructure.
Well, yeah, I think that's part of the problem. I mean, most of Australia's population is right down that east coast, something like
Mm,
90+% or something crazy. There's like
yeah.
hardly anyone over in Perth. We're all down that eastern,
Yeah.
we're all down this eastern strip,
Yeah.
and the rest of the country is pretty arid. But
Mm. Hey, if Dubai can build
well,
Dubai,
that's exactly what I think. Like, people live in arid climates. Why can't we live in an arid climate?
yeah,
Why does that make it unusable?
I don't know.
I don't think it does. But we don't, even just looking at where all the main populations are,
Yeah.
infrastructure is not fantastic. Public transport in Melbourne is pretty average.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty good until I went out there and traveled a little bit and saw what other people were doing and was like, oh,
What did you compare
that's a
it
good
to?
idea. Well, I mean, I even the biggest one eye opener for me was in Bangkok, right? Like, their public transport works so well. That, like, that city wouldn't function without it.
Mm,
Like, I've always been really impressed with their BTS system, which
yeah.
is weird that they call it a bus train station.
Bus
And
train.
yeah, I don't know if it's a bus or a train. It's just a bus train. But in terms of like navigating Bangkok, it's pretty exceptional.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yes, every
Oh,
time I've been there, like, we don't bother with anything else. You take
yeah.
public transport because it
And
works really
so
well.
is there a lot of traffic on the road?
There's a lot of traffic on the road, for sure.
Yeah.
It's heaps of traffic.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the public transport system it's never late, it's always on time, it's reliable, it's dependable. You know that there's going to be a bus train every 10 or 15 minutes, like clockwork, no problem.
10, 15 minutes. Yeah, no, that's too long in between bus trains.
But
Um,
it's probably even less than that. I actually don't feel like I've ever spent a great deal of time at a
yeah.
bus train, a
Yeah.
BTS station in Bangkok.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so I after my stint living in Tokyo, came back here and I was all like, yeah, you know what, some time has passed. I'll give this public transport thing a try because I didn't have a
Mm,
car when I came back. I was still in
mm,
the market for one. I need to go some
mm,
places, and I got a rude awakening. It was very
mm,
shocking to see that there was no such thing, not even close. You're not even like 20 years close to what they've got in
mm,
other cities. And the price is also too expensive for what it
mm,
is.
mm.
Yeah, so if like,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
It's very expensive.
my like so my wife and I we work in the same office. So if we're both having to catch a train and go into the city,
Mm,
that's two tickets. But we still
mhm,
have to drive to the train station and park at the train station and then catch a train from there and then walk afterwards. Um,
mm,
it's almost as expensive as if we were both to just drive in and pay for parking for the day and then drive
mhm.
back all the way.
Yep. It's I'd say it's definitely more expensive than your cost of fuel.
Mm,
Like, it's probably not quite as expensive when you factor in parking as well, but it's not far off it. It's too expensive to be a great option for most people.
yeah, well, you don't have a choice. You got to go get those survival credits.
Mm,
But then if you like because of what happened last year, and everybody was like, oh yeah, you know what, we can work from home, and we're both in
mhm,
IT, and like, hey, we didn't miss a step. As a matter of fact, our
mhm,
productivity increased because
mhm.
we weren't in the office, just chin wagging, having a chat, going for coffees, that kind of thing. Everyone was just working. Everyone's
Talking
time
about
was
nonsense, first world problems. Yeah.
talking about first. Yeah, exactly. It was like, hey man, is it black or is
I
it
bought a
pink?
robot vacuum
I
cleaner.
bought a robot vacuum cleaner. It's terrible. I mean, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like people moved out. People want bigger places so that they can have an office room now because they
Mhm,
know they can work from home.
mhm.
And because of that, we saw an asset bubble in the rural parts of the state as well. We never learn.
Uh,
That's right.
nah.
I don't know. This
Uh,
doesn't seem like there's a real solution for this. And because it
yeah.
certainly seems like as populations of third world countries urbanize,
Mm,
you do tend to get um, more and more expensive real estate
mm,
in the city centers where that infrastructure is and where everything is. Last time I was in China, I was being driven around by a friend who is a native of Shanghai. I can't remember if it was Shanghai or Beijing. I think they have like 6 circles from the city center. It's like 6 rings, they call it. And if you're not in those 6 rings, then you're not in anywhere worthwhile knowing. You're outside of that, you're in the country. But anywhere
mm.
in those 6 rings in that radius, you won't find a place for less than $1 million US.
Wow.
Yeah, this is China.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Shanghai. Yeah, um, and
Mm,
that's like mind blowing to me, which might kind of explain. Actually, no, I'm not going to go there. But yeah, it's mind blowing to me that it could be that expensive there
mm,
comparing to the wages, the average wages. But then you can't compare it to the average wages because the people that are working in the cities are probably making as much as you or
mm.
I.
Yeah, true. I was gonna say too, I don't know if I don't know how much of this is applicable to overseas, Shanghai, but certainly in Australia, I think it's a mistake that property has been incentivized to be used as an investment.
Ooh.
Like, oh, I think, like my parents, they've always talked about you got to buy property. Like it's the best place to put your money, right? You got to
Mm,
fucking buy property, invest property. God's
yeah.
not making any more land. I can't remember my grandparents used to say that all the
Uh,
time.
mhm.
But like, I always think, I've always thought that that's wrong. And maybe it's just I'm biased because I don't own property. I
Yep.
don't know. But I've just thought, like, shouldn't it just be accessible to everyone to be able to own their own home? Like, shouldn't that be a right? And that's one argument. But the other argument is that shouldn't that money be better spent, put to work in an investment, like investing in an industry, like invest in the stock market, in companies that are, entrepreneurial companies that are trying to make the world a better place, tech companies that are trying to solve a big problem or something like that. Like, shouldn't we have been incentivized that as the best place to invest in companies that are building something, producing something, right? It's that production argument.
Mm. Yeah.
Rather than just saying, hey, buy a house, it's going to double in value in 10 years.
And then someone else will buy it from you, and
Yeah,
then you'll make
and they'll
money.
expect it to double in 10 years as well.
Exactly. And then when you go out with that money that you made to buy something else, that's probably also doubled in value as
Mhm.
well. Um, I don't think it's doubled in value. It's probably just that money has halved in value instead.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because that reminded me of that accord called
mhm,
Basel 3. It's like this worldwide financial institution
mhm,
recommendations on uh, how you interpret certain financial activities, let's say. And
Right.
the one of the things in there which came out a while back, one of the recommendations in there was that small lending to small business, what the traditional arm of banks, which they would lend to small business so they could start up something and someone could start up a productive industry.
Mm,
Um, that was seen as risky. And so loans for
mm,
small businesses sort of tanked. And to make up for that, loans for domestic increased. And so people were pushing that. So, of course, the banks want you to borrow more and more money because that's how they make their money. So it goes all the way back to those recommendations, which then drives the asset values on the asset classes and the values of those asset classes. And you'll see a decrease in the amount of productive industry, especially the burgeoning, the smaller ones that are coming up. and an increase in the domestic assets, like the domestic housing and property. But it's never changed. Like, your grandfather said it. My grandfather's also said it, because they've seen it. Landowners are the wealthy ones. That's it. You got to own land. But
Yep.
but is it that we are looking at this from the benefit, or let's say detriment, of context, because we know that your parents bought their place for $27,000. So $1 million is ludicrous to think of when you are purchasing a house. Like my parents bought their place for $112,000, and for me to think of a house at 1.6 million, that's crazy, because that same thing was 100 some thousand when I was not too long ago, right? But then the people that don't have context of that sort of grew up going, and like, I was having this conversation once with a bandmate of mine who's a lot younger than me, and he was talking about, oh yeah, neighbor's property sold. This is a while back as well. It was a 2-bedroom unit, and it was not in the greatest part of town, and it sold for like $500,000. And he said, wow, that's a bargain. And I thought, wait a second, it's 2008, by the way. I'm like, wait, that's a bargain? That's like 5 times more than what I'd pay for it. But that was a bargain, because that place now,
it's probably worth 3 times that amount now.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's a corner block. It's like a 2-bedroom unit on a corner. And
it's a bargain.
It's a bargain now for 500 grand. You got to be kidding me. Yeah.
I was thinking that you made the comment that, like, historically landowners have been the wealthy ones, but isn't it the case that if you were far enough back, that's because the land was a means of production?
Correct.
So, like, if you go far enough back into England or France or something,
agriculture you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly, right. They were wealthy. They owned heaps of land because their land was producing wine and food.
Yeah. Well, now it's producing rent and capital increase.
Yeah, capital gains.
Capital gains. Yeah. And like, I agree with you to an extent that we shouldn't be incentivizing property as an investment unless it's maybe commercial property, because that's then for a business to occupy, to create value.
Yeah, which is interesting, because I don't think commercial property has seen the same capital growth as residential.
No, because there's not enough businesses to go in there, and they have to pay the rent, and businesses aren't going to pay that rent. So, what do? You buy robot vacuum cleaners. That's what you do.
You buy robot vacuum cleaners. Well, I do think that there'd certainly be some legislative change that's necessary in there to de-incentivize property as the best place to park your money, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen, considering everyone's got everything in it. It's like, you've gone all in on this. Now you can't pull the rug out anymore. So it's too late.
Do you still need negative gearing though?
Yeah. You need it all. Every kind of incentive you can give. That's what you need.
You need it all if you're unwilling to see that asset class stop growing, I suppose.
Should it stop growing? I don't know.
Well, it feels unsustainable. You've got home ownership is already in the double digits in terms of multiples of average income. Where does it stop? It can't grow forever.
It stops when the crisis becomes a humanitarian crisis, and it affects politicians from being re-elected, because so many of a particular slice of people will not have the security of a paid off home, and will not be able to house themselves, and will not be able to perhaps afford a rent, given that they've stopped working in their older age. and they're tossed out on the street, and you'll have a glut of homeless people, perhaps.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. What do you do?
I don't know. I don't feel like we've got a good solution to this
I
one.
don't feel like we've got a good solution to this one either.
I do think it's probably like, I mean, I do think the laws around negative gearing need to change in Australia,
Mm.
but I think you're right. I don't think they will change,
I don't think they will
especially
change.
given
I don't like.
this is a broad generalization, very broad.
Mm.
I might get myself in trouble, but I
You
would
get cancelled. Be
hazard
careful.
I'll be cancelled. I would hazard a guess that a lot of our politicians have pretty extensive property portfolios.
Oh yeah, I saw an article on that. They have like each one has an average of around 2.3 investment properties. Some have
Yeah, and
more,
they
some
don't want
have
to see
less.
that stop growing, do they?
Yeah, of course not. I'm never a proponent of taking something away that was there. It never ever works. It
Okay.
never ever works. Like you think about human psychology, and there's like a behavioral psychologist that's done this experiment where they went to a shopping center, I should say, or shopping mall for the people in the north, um,
Mm.
and they stopped random people, and they said, okay, I'm going to give you $5 for no reason whatsoever. I just want you to tell me how that makes you feel. I gave him $5. And they're like, yeah, it's pretty good. Thanks. I just bought me a coffee. Thanks a lot. And they're about to walk away. And they're like, hold on. Just forgot one thing. I was supposed to give you 10. So here's another 5. How does that make you feel? And he's like, fucking awesome. I love this. This is fantastic. It's the best day of my life. They did that. And they're measuring people's reactions. And at the same time, what they were doing was that they'd stop someone and they'd go, same deal, you know, here's $20 for absolutely no reason whatsoever. How does it make you feel? Of course, they're ecstatic. And then when they walk away,
Be pretty
like,
happy.
hold on. Sorry, I made a mistake. I was only supposed to give you 10. Can I have 10 back? And they take 10 back. How does that make you feel? Yeah, I'm all right. You know,
Still
like
got
I suppose I
$10.
still got 10, but you know, I had 20. It's not that great because you had 20 and now you've got 10. In both situations, you end up at the same end. You have $10 in your hand that you didn't have before. You should be ecstatic. But the first one, you had 5 and then you were given another 5. And they're like, oh my God. But then the second one, you had 20 and now you've got half of what you had in your hand. It's it's a shitty feeling and you can't get over that. And like the fear of like that's why I like the feeling of loss that they measured is 4 times greater than the feeling of gain. Right. So I'm never a proponent of, and they've done this experiment in restaurants as well with waiters who would, and they measured the tips that they would get when a waiter would be nice to you and say something nice to you during when they bring you the bill. And then they did one where they bring you the bill with like a piece of chocolate or a mint or something in there, and they would get a bigger tip than they did the first time around when they said something nice. And they combined that with you said something nice, you bring the bill with a chocolate, then you walk away, and then you take a step back and you go, hold on, you guys are extra special. Here's a few more chocolates for you. And then the tip skyrocketed. So people like that additional thing rather than, you know, having stuff taken away that they had. So I'm never a proponent of let's remove this. Like let's remove negative gearing. Let's remove the
I
capital
understand the point
gains
you're making.
tax break. Yeah.
I'm not sure I completely agree with you though.
But wait, there's more.
Okay.
Because unless you give people a better alternative to switch to, so as in an investment class that would be more lucrative and less complicated than having to run investment properties and having to deal with the hassle of that just for the negative gearing benefits. It's like make the move towards that. And if that move is towards supporting productive industry,
Mm-hmm.
for a better capital gain or a better return,
Mm-hmm.
then negative gearing would just stamp itself out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that should be part of like any kind of solution, that would, wind back negative gearing needs to offer that
Mm.
for sure.
Or
Otherwise, what people are going to
yeah,
invest their money overseas rather than in the Australian economy, and we're probably no better off.
yeah, or introduce negative gearing on everything else like stocks.
Yeah, potentially.
Why not? I always said that if you have a tax loophole that
Mm,
maybe the mega rich corporations are using,
mm.
if if you teach the layman how to make use of that loophole,
I'll get
you
rid of
see
the
that
loophole.
loophole, it'll be gone like that.
Yeah.
Right? So like
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that we had that big leak? Was it the Panama Papers
the
leak?
Panama Papers, yeah.
Where basically it was just out there that we could see all of these really wealthy people, the 0.1% of the world,
Yeah, yeah.
avoiding tax, and nothing happened. The news cycle just moved on. We all forgot about it, and absolutely nothing happened.
That's
It
correct.
continues. Isn't that
Predicted it.
crazy?
It's crazy. I predicted it. I think at that point, I think I might have a post going back on my social media somewhere saying that guess what?
Mm,
Next week you would not know what this is because you'd be arguing about whether a dress is pink or white or something like that.
mhm.
Because the cycle of like the rate at which information is hitting you is too hard for you to keep track of the
Yeah.
important stuff. So yeah,
And
I write about
outrage
this.
culture. There'll be something new to be mad about in the next 7 days.
Oh, for sure. Maybe even
Yeah.
after
Will
people watch this
distract you.
podcast and say,
Yeah.
these guys need to be cancelled
Yeah.
because of what they talked about. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe.
bring it. It's
Maybe.
only, yeah. At least if I'm going to get cancelled, I want to get cancelled now before I become like before this podcast blows up because it will. It's a matter of time. It will because
All
yeah, don't
right.
like I don't want to have to put all this effort in and then get cancelled. This is
Mm,
like only episode 001. Cancel me
yeah.
now.
I don't want to be cancelled at all.
Yeah. I don't know.
Can't we just keep talk? Can't we just keep talking and drinking wine and eating kimchi?
I don't know. I don't know who would take offense to
We were
this.
doing, Raf, we were doing this anyway. All we've decided to do is record these conversations. That's all. No
Yeah.
one, no one has to listen to it.
No, that's right. Well, yeah, that's right. But
I don't
you're
even sure
welcome
I
to.
would want to listen to it.
After it's done, no. During the process is fine, but after it's done,
Mm,
no. But like, I can
mm,
highly recommend to anybody who's my first world compatriots
mm,
that robot vacuum cleaners are a godsend. And maybe that's the
uh,
solution: is that send robot
mm,
vacuum cleaners to the third
mm.
world now.
Maybe that's it. Free up their weekends. See
Yeah,
what they can do with that extra time.
yeah, hell yeah, yeah. Free up the
Yeah, I
weekends.
love it. Yeah.
Robot vacuum cleaner in the house doing its thing. I can
Mm,
go and work more. That's probably what they'll do. Because
probably.
the industrious, they're coming up. They're not third world countries. They're industrializing
Mm,
nations.
hmm
Industrious and industrializing. Wow. We made a lot of leaps in today's one.
I feel real similar to the last time we did this, that we started discussing topics that neither one of us is qualified to comment on.
It's great,
Like not even close to qualified.
but it's
If
still
anyone does listen to this, like these two are idiots. Well, yeah, probably. Probably right.
yeah, I know, but like you get better
Mm.
with practice, don't you? So
Yeah, for sure. We
it's
should revisit this. Like, last episode, what did we talk about last episode? We talked about Mondays, the first world
oh,
problem of the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and
yeah.
that it's a Sunday right now. That dreaded feeling that we've got to go to work on the Monday. That's
Oh
a
my
first world problem.
God, yeah. I had to
Yeah,
fit.
sorry to bring that up.
I had to fit a that's the thing. Like, I've had to fit a doctor's appointment in between meetings.
Mm.
That's where I'm at.
First world problem. Can't
First world
believe it.
problem.
Yeah, you can afford healthcare.
Not if I had
But
to
you have
pay
to
for it.
True. Very. Yeah, me too. Actually, very
Yeah,
true.
shit.
But
Fucking
so
Medicare.
like the last time we were talking about that, and we talked about universal basic income and education reform. Somehow that was a leap. Don't know how we got there.
All right. Universal
Mm.
basic income. What would you do? Like, let's put it to the test. What would you do if you had your
Well, so
rent
if
was
I,
covered?
so let's just expand that a little bit. So hypothetical situation, I don't have to worry about a roof over my head. I have a home. I don't pay rent or mortgage. I have a
Yep.
home.
You can afford all the wine and kimchi that you want.
I can afford all the wine and kimchi I want. I don't have to worry about food sustenance at all.
Petrol
Like it
money.
doesn't cross my mind. I
Yep.
have enough money to for the occasional splurge, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very
Mm-hmm.
rarely. I don't want to be. I'm not saying I'm going to be greedy, but just
Yep.
to go out to dinner,
Yeah.
once a month or something with some friends, that sort of thing. Right. So if I had all of that taken care of, what would I do? Well, I would probably still work, but I don't think I would work full time. I think I would do something where it's not stressful in the same way that I feel stress at work today. And I think a lot of that is that you have to work, right? I have to earn those survival credits.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I didn't have that pressure,
Yeah.
that most jobs wouldn't be stressful anymore. So I think I would want to be doing a job where I get to talk to people, I just get to meet people, and that maybe I'm just doing something repetitive, but there's still an element of mastery in it that I can get really good. I think a good example of that would be making coffees. I'd be a barista
Really?
part time. Yeah, I think that wouldn't be bad. I would hate to do it right now.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it. But it would be quite fun, just a couple of days a week or something.
Yeah.
Barista, make coffees, chat to people. You have your regulars come in, you build a bit of connection with. That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of mastery. You know that when you go to those coffee shops and they just draw those like intricate pictures
Oh
in
yeah.
your phone, I think that'd be
Yeah.
really fun. So I would do that. And I would also, in my spare time, I think I would really like to coach kids basketball.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Right now, I'd love to do it. I think it'd be really good to be coaching a team and you know commiserate with them when they lose and celebrate with them when they win and see
Yeah.
them develop. I think that'd be really rewarding. But right now, working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. In fact, more than 9 to 5. I don't work 9 to 5. I working long hours, working on the weekends sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of the time commitment that I would want to put into something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think I have the time.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. Part-time barista, part-time basketball coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't do that now. But
Need
again,
survival credits, Raf.
the survival credits would be a thing. Wow, interesting. Yeah, it's so far away from where you are, though.
I know it's completely different.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, I have coached children's basketball, so been there, done that. Um,
Was it lovely?
no, This- no, it was
I
good.
think
It
that
was all right.
depends a lot on the age bracket as well.
Yeah, it was
So when I say coach,
challenging.
I would like to coach, say under 16s, under 17s, where it's getting a bit more serious, where they
Yeah,
actually want to be competitive, and
okay.
it's not just sharing a
Yeah,
ball and having a good time.
I think.
I'm being a bit more too competitive for that.
Yeah, I used to coach a girls team. Um,
Hmm.
they were under 18 or under 19, something like that. So they were just some
Hmm.
of them on P plates, some of them getting there. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
so that was fun. That was an experience. It was a bit of a challenge getting them organized and successful, showing them that they can be successful if they follow a system of play. We took them to the
Yeah.
finals. They lost by 2 points. But they were never
Ouch.
supposed to be in the finals in the first place because they just like they had some skill, but without the system of play and working together. And that was the rewarding bit, was that they got there and they listened
Yeah.
and they made an effort. And that was
They
really
put the
rewarding.
work in.
Yeah, it was really rewarding. I remember it was a very rewarding sort of activity. And I used to do it after hours. I was still working full time back then as well. And that was a job that I was often during the week, interstate, as a hired gun, something like a consultant kind of thing. So yeah, it was a lot of effort, but I was still in my 20s, so I had a lot of energy to do that. I don't think I'll have the energy to do that at this point in time. But yeah, I would, if I didn't have anything else, I would just be one of two things. I'd be exercising my creative muscle, which means writing, and just writing songs, because I write music as well. I make music, and that's pretty much it for me. If I had nothing else to do, I'm always got that, because it's it's always there. So I'd be getting better at playing instruments and making music and writing songs, writing thought articles, and writing books about probably nonsense that no one else wants to read, but at least I'm writing it. The other thing I would do is get really, really knowledgeable on certain key scientific problems, and think of just solutions by tinkering in my garage by myself at night, that kind of thing. So experimenting. I'm a lifelong experimenter. I believe in never being an expert in anything. I don't think mastery is all it's cracked up to be. Even a master still needs to be an experimenter to some degree, because a master in its purest form is, I don't think it's physically achievable, because you are of the assumption that you know it all, because you're the master at it, and everything you know, you already know, and there's nothing else. And you'll be overtaken by an experimenter one day who will stumble upon something that you didn't know. Yeah. So mastery is great to strive towards, but not to reach. It's that sort of idea of perfection. You'll never get there, right? Yeah. So yeah, always be an experimenter, always be curious, and yeah, just be a good friend to people who know me, and just be a good role model to my kids, and that's it. It's simple. And
Piece of
some of this
cake.
stuff, yeah, piece of cake. And some of this stuff I do now, and it takes a lot of effort. Still, make music when I can, write stuff when I can. Do this. This is still creative. Yeah, and as much as I'd like to, sit down and think about how I can, stop overfishing in the oceans, I just don't have the time. Yeah, if UBI was in, you might get the solutions to these problems, right? Yeah.
I feel like overfishing has a pretty simple solution.
Stop fishing.
No.
Stop overfishing.
I think the problem with we're digressing again. The problem with overfishing the oceans is that the solution would require too much cooperation between global powers.
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge. But
Yeah.
the solution is just have designated fishing areas, or probably better put, designated non-fishing areas. Areas where the fish are safe to repopulate and reproduce, and once they migrate to fishing areas, and fish away. But too much cooperation required there.
Yeah.
The tragedy, what's it called?
Tragedy
There's
of
an
the
economic
commons.
principle. Yeah,
Tragedy of the
economic
commons.
tragedy of commons.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yep. And if for those who don't know, what's that? What's that mean?
Oh, you want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Well, it means if you've got a common or shared resource, that people will be concerned about taking their fair share, right? So everyone will want their piece of it. If you've got a basket of free bread in the lunchroom, everyone will come and take. Well, they'll take two. They want to make sure they get their fair share. They don't want to miss out.
Yep.
And before you know it, your basket of free bread is empty, and most people have missed out.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was yeah, that's the thing. Tragedy of the commons. So you can't let these commoners have anything. So don't let them. Don't give it to them.
Something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you got to put the regulations on that.
Well, it's the reason why that we have fishing licenses in, like in Victoria, right?
Yep.
If you want to go fishing, you've got to buy a fishing license because they regulate who's allowed to fish, how many how many fish you're allowed to take. It's to protect the wider resource so that everyone has access to it to some degree.
That's right.
Forever.
But they've never met my uncle.
Oh no.
Yeah, and of course, you got to
Was he
be.
concerned about getting his fair share, Raf?
No, he was concerned about not being able to catch, brim out the meetung. So at the was it Tambo River. So initially, you'd catch them, you'd put them in a plastic bag, and you'd chuck it in the tall grass because it's undersized by a couple of centimeters. And like, God damn, I've been here for 45 minutes. I caught this thing. It's this big. It needs to be this big. So you put a plastic bag and chuck it in the long grass. And then the inspector comes. And he's like, well, I haven't caught anything. And the fish goes flippity flop, and you can hear the plastic. And he's like, ah. So he got wise. And next time he brought a pillowcase. You can't hear it because it's cotton. Yeah. And there was
goodness me,
not enough. But like the small ones, you chuck back, but like because there's nothing to eat. But basically, if they're because it used to be like 25 centimeters in order to be able to catch the fish, and if it's 24 or 23, you're like, oh, I'm not. This is enough to feed 2 people. I'm not gonna throw this back. So yeah, it's always a tragedy of the commons right there.
That's it.
Oh well,
that's it. I was gonna say that we got sidetracked again.
Seems to be a theme.
But I was gonna say it's a theme. We need to keep track of these topics and then be able to revisit them later when we're not so dumb, or that we get someone on board who's actually knowledgeable on the topic to talk to them about.
Who's knowledgeable on UBI?
I have no idea, but we haven't tried looking. An economist?
I hate economists. They're the worst kind of people.
Yeah, you said that last time I mentioned it as well.
They're just useless. Why? Why would you have one?
Some kind of economic policy advisor. We could find people if we put our mind to it. Yeah, but it might not be every topic, but some topics.
It's the simplest question. Like I know like, okay, let's go on the premise of, we are dumb. And I'm like, well, okay, if I'm the economist or the chief economist and the economy's in ruins, do I get fired? Have I done a bad
probably
job?
Should.
Or is it like, yeah, well, you probably should, but
you won't, but you probably should.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I just give advice. You don't need to take it. And the thing is, if I give advice and you implement it and it doesn't go well, you didn't implement it correctly. And if it did go well, then hooray for me. I don't understand the role of an economist. Maybe that's why I'm so dumb.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we need to get one on here to educate us.
Economists, please reach out to us at kimchi and wine, kimchi and wine at gmail.com. And let us know how dumb we actually are by telling us what 100%. Value you contribute, what the consequences
also educate
are.
Us on the tragedy of the commons that we think we know all about that we've probably butchered.
I think you did a good job in explaining the tragedy of the commons. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. You have a common thing, everybody has access to it, and then everybody goes nuts on it, and then that thing goes away.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to miss out. If you're going to get some, I want to get some first.
Like toilet paper?
That's like toilet paper. Is that a tragedy of the commons in action? Maybe it is. I don't know.
Holy crap. Yeah, because I went, like, usually I go So the announcement for the lockdown was on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
and usually Wednesday after the kids go swimming, I'd go do the grocery shopping, and I didn't go this week, and I left it for the day after, and I went, and there was no toilet paper left, none. And I was like, didn't we do this last year where everyone
Woolworths
knows?
had to regulate us. They said a limit of 2 people, two
I
per
saw
person.
that now. There's two per person, which, you know, again, also doesn't work. But like it's just like what? Because someone else got it, and you see some people buying it, and then you're like, oh, I better get mine too because it's going to run out. And then everyone takes it, and then it's gone.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It just makes me, yeah. It sort of sometimes.
You'd think we learned last year, wouldn't you? You'd think
That's what I
we've been
thought.
through this. We
That's
should
what
be
I thought.
wiser.
But
Nope.
like, you know, lockdown scare the
Nope.
crap out of people. That's the only logical solution I can think of.
Yeah.
But and in my more sort of cynical moments, I think humanity's not worth it. And like the whole premise of this podcast sort of goes down the toilet because we're trying to look for solutions for first world problems. We're trying to identify first world problems as being actual problems to be taken seriously. But then, are human beings worth it? Should we even care? Fuck them, let them die, and there'll be less stress on the environment. How about that? You know? Yeah.
You're going to get yourself cancelled. You're trying to get cancelled early, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm hoping I do. Men are men and women are women. No, wait, that's not it. That's not right. That's not right. Come on. We're in the Wild West. There's an old joke from Dave Allen, one of my favorite comedians, and he goes, "Welcome to the Wild West, where men are men and women are women." And he's like, "That's not wild. If the women were men and the men were women, that would be wild."
That would be wild. Oh goodness.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to go run my robot vacuum cleaner to do another run and mop the house because it also mops.
Very talented robots these days.
It's got AI.
The future is here.
It's got AI. Like it learns your house and it learns the most efficient way to vacuum so it consumes less batteries. It's got a camera in the front, so you can use it as a security camera and make it go around to different rooms of your house when you're not there and have a look around. Wow. It can identify what a bed is, what a table is, what room it's in. If there's a rug, it won't mop it. It just knows. It's even got a name. We call him Monty.
Monty?
Yeah.
Did it come with that name or you named it?
No, we just named it. It's just cute because it's a robot. And I'd prefer this kind of robot over like, you know, T-1000s or anything like that.
So. I was expecting a Terminator reference. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, just don't upset Monty, will you?
No, of course not.
Tell him I said hello.
Hello.
That I appreciate him.
Oh, yes. And, you know, I love the government. If they're listening, I love the government. I'm not sure which country this thing is made in. So I
was
love.
Gonna say, do you think the Australian government's listening? I don't think so. I don't think they care.
No, I don't think they care. They're just like, oh, so house prices going up, great. No, I don't know what country. It's probably made in China. It's probably it's safe bet. It's made in China. Yeah, Xi Jinping.
You appreciate the Chinese Communist Party.
I appreciate them very much. So Xi Jinping does not look like Winnie the Pooh at all, at all, at all.
No.
To me, he seems to be the least impressed person of all time.
Yeah, he doesn't look.
He's never impressed. He's leader of like 1.2 billion people, second largest economy in the world, huge superpower, and he's
probably
like,
soon to be the first largest economy.
Well,
skyrocketing up there.
They would have already, but you know the US is not going to let that happen easily. So they put all this stuff in the way. But you know, I was there in 2015 when they were celebrating the 75th or 70th anniversary or 75th anniversary or something, right? I think the end of the war or something like that. And they had, and I was in Beijing at the time as well, and they had the huge military sort of procession and everything down the main sort of Broadway there. And in comes, you know, Xi Jinping. I was watching it on TV because I didn't go to where all the crowds were. And he's just standing there at one of the buildings and all these people going past and saluting him. And he's just like, hey. He's just not impressed. He's just this.
No.
Yeah.
Got high standards, that man. Probably maybe the highest.
I don't know. I don't think it's got any standards. I don't think it's
got
any
I was reading,
standards.
this is quite funny. I was reading that if you're in Hong Kong,
yeah,
that it is illegal to go to a memorial for Tiananmen Square, but it's also illegal to organize one. It's also illegal to think about organizing one. I don't know if that's true, but I read it on the internet. If you're caught thinking about it, Rafi, you will go to jail.
You look like you're thinking about something that you're not supposed to be thinking about. You are going to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect.
It's an odd law, isn't it?
There are some really odd laws in every country. Because the thing is, when you write a law and pass it through Parliament or not, and it becomes law, write a bill and pass it through Parliament, becomes law. We know that process, and that sort of churns out laws more and more. But what is there something at the other end which then sort of goes, yeah, this one's no longer required. This one's no longer required. Let's repeal this. Let's repeal that. Let's repeal this. There's no such thing. So that's why you have stuff like it's illegal to collect rainwater. It's illegal to jump in puddles or something like that in some places in the world. You know, it's something to do with like horses and cows or whatever, you know, like everybody had them in their backyard or something. But, you know, we don't have that. It's not a what do you call that? Continuous improvement sort of process. Yeah, there you go. And that's why we have too many laws.
This is true.
Too many laws.
This is very true.
Oh, well.
Anyway, so we should draw this to a conclusion, should we?
I think that's a good idea.
And we're going to ship robot vacuum cleaners to third world countries.
I think that's the best solution that we've come up with.
Yeah. What do we call Scott? Scott Morrison.
Scott Morrison? No, I was thinking we'd call like Gina Reinhardt instead. She's the one with the money. Remember all that money you got by digging up the ground that belongs to all citizens of the country?
Please send robot vacuum cleaners overseas.
Please send robot vacuum cleaners overseas. Because, like, you know, the stuff you dug up went into making the parts maybe and then shipped back.
Yeah, most likely. Makes sense. Look, I'll text her. I'll send her a text.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Hey, G.
Hey, G.
Raph and I had an idea. We think you might be interested in.
Yeah, why not? All right,
I'll
maybe
let you know how it goes.
If we don't get cancelled by next week, let's talk about the next episode. Let's talk about cancel culture there, and try our best to get ourselves cancelled, and how it's a first world phenomenon in the last year and this year and the year before, and why it's like an Ice Cube song. I'll leave you with that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I'm going to stop recording. Cheers to you, Marcus.